What's up, everybody? It's me. It's Mr. Voiceman. This is the last video of the week, and I know I said I'd put up one every week, but hey, duty calls, you get sleepy, tired, life happens, school happens, everything happens, and you get distracted. But I could not forget to at least do one video to give you the ins and outs of the game to look for on Sunday, what it's going to take for your Ravens to whoop up on Brady and those Pats. So here it goes. First things first, we know how prolific that offense is in New England. So how do you beat them? Listening to a wonderful radio show here in Baltimore, as you guys will be well aware, 105.7 The Fan, Kenny and Vinny, which air from 10 until 1 every weekday morning. Vinny Serrato, he's a former general manager of San Francisco and Washington. God rest his wonderful soul for having to work with Daniel Snyder, but that's not important right now. He called up a defense coordinator that he's friends with, and he said, if you are Chuck Pagano, how do you beat the New England Patriots? And this is kind of the game plan that he set up, which across the board I have to agree with wholeheartedly. If you notice, most of the Ravens' last few games, they play in a very not soft, but not up-close zone coverage. If you do that against somebody who is accurate as Brady, he will pick you apart for days and we'll have no chance whatsoever. The key to beating him, as well as to beating Phillip Rivers, which we did not do, is playing a man coverage. For those of you who don't know, that's plain and simple. My guy versus me, I am responsible for him. If he gets around me, it's my fault, and if he scores, it's my fault. We have the personnel to keep up with their wide receivers because, frankly, they're not that impressive. Deion Branch, he's a journeyman receiver. He was with the Patriots when they won the Super Bowl. And then he went to Seattle for quite a few years, battled some injuries, but came back and was traded to New England for a couple of later draft picks. He's back, had a halfway decent year this year, but he's nothing really scary to worry about. I look for him to be on one side of the ball. And then Julian Edelman, who I think he's going to have more than just offensive factors involved. He was actually playing secondary help at one point for the Patriots, which shows how bad that defense is. He's a speedster in sense, but does not really have the skill set that most would love for that deep threat. I'd probably look for Kerry Williams to be on him, and for Chris Carr to possibly get the assignment on Deion Branch or vice versa. It's not exactly the most ideal of scenarios, but don't forget about Danny Gore. He's been kind of the unsung hero of that secondary. He's been, not really the best, but when he does get his chances, he tends to make plays. Of course, I'm not forgetting about Lardarius Webb. He has been our shutdown corner this year, but he's going to have the game of his life. Because more than likely he's going to be drawn up into the slot against Wes Welker, and as you've seen many times this year, he has destroyed defenses for 10 to 12 receptions and 150 to 200 yards. I mean, the guy has been phenomenal this year for Tom Brady. But if you can bump and run Welker out of his roots and you can get him rattled, that really upsets the timing he has with Brady, and that will lead to a lot of incomplete passes. So Lardarius is going to have his work cut out for him, but I'm really sure he's up to the task. Number two, of course, are those big tight ends, Hernandez and Gronkowski. Hernandez isn't as big of the receiving threat as most people think he is, and I look for Jimmy Smith to also be a key part of this, because if they're smart, as the D coordinator said, and as this guy thinks as well, he is going to be the key to making sure Hernandez is blanketed at all times. If he does look like he's in trouble, then you're going to look for a linebacker or possibly a safety to step up and bracket the guy over the top and help him prevent from getting any long gains after making a yard up or making the catch. But the big factor is Rob Gronkowski. The man has absolutely blown up this year. There's a reason why. The man is 6'5", 250 plus pounds, and he runs like a wide receiver. The guy is a freak of nature, and he is going to be the number one issue this defense has to contain. Plain and simple, you got to double team him, be it a number 4 or a number 5 corner, or be it a safety or be it a linebacker, someone is going to have to play man coverage against this freak all day, and they're going to have to keep a safety blanketed over the top. Because if this guy can beat you, Brady's going to find him, and there's no bringing down this big of a man from, unless you horse collar him, there's no way you're going to bring him down from the back. So if he gets behind this our defense, he's going to rip us to shreds. So plain and simple, we're going to be looking for double teaming on Gronk, and then it comes up to the front four. If they can somehow get past what is rated as one of the best offensive lines in football, even if it's just for a few pressures, it doesn't have to be sacks. If you get in Brady's face, he gets trigger happy and makes mistakes, as we saw in the playoff game in 2009. If you rattle his cage, he does show signs of weakness. So we've got to get close to his legs, we've got to get up in his grill, and we've got to shake this guy crazy. That is the only way we're going to be able to stop this Patriot offense. Well, one key cog that we can do, and we know we can do it well because that's how we've beaten them in the past, is running the football. The more time off that clock, the less chances Brady has. In the game against Pittsburgh earlier this year, Pittsburgh had the perfect formula of run, 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 and taking all the short passes you can, because that just winds the clock down and has no chance or time for Brady to lead those drives that he does so well. If I remember correctly, Brady only had 3 offensive drives that entire game. As long as you score more points than he does, there's no way he's going to be able to combat that. Now, Ravens offensively, this is a vacation compared to the defense they just faced. 31st altogether in the league. They were about 18th against the run, so they are vulnerable. Not up the middle, because Vince Wilfork is the haloti nada of that defense, and he eats up defenders and running backs for breakfast. So it's going to be a lot of sweeps, a lot of bootlegs, a lot of end-arounds, a lot of different misdirection type plays. But if we go up the gut on ISO runs, this is going to be a very long day for Ray Rice. But as long as we can keep a balanced offensive attack, and Joe gets time in the pocket, which the O-line did not give us last week, we should be able to move the ball handedly and score at will against this defense. They're vulnerable. They are not they're not an easy defense, but they certainly aren't the hardest. As a lot of people you will hear mention, it's a bend, not break type defense. But they can be scored upon at will. The only thing is, if you guys notice, Cam Cameron has the, he tends to go a little bit towards, my ego is bigger than yours. I have a quarterback who can throw the ball 800 times. If he does this, we're in trouble. But if he can stay within himself and have Joe do the intermediate routes, the short routes, not take those chances downfield, except maybe once or twice per half, excuse me, it should be definitely in our favor, because if he does end up succeeding on those long passes, that ends up less time that you're on the field and more time Brady's on the field, and that's where he can torture us the most. Of course, the defense will have something to say about that, given the nature of this game. But that being said, I know it's coming to decision time. If the Ravens can play to that defensive game plan that I just laid out, if Sal Palantonio quoted, if I'm quoting correctly, it was called man up too deep, man coverage on the outside, 2 safeties deep, linebackers back in coverage for tight ends, and your front four is responsible for getting after the quarterback. If they have success in that game plan, Brady will not be able to do what he has done for the last 9 games, and then score an average of 35 points. If we have no success in the pressure, the secondary will eventually be burned unless we can jump routes early. The aggressive nature of this defense does give us that opportunity, but without pressure, we could be exposed very handedly and very soon. Offensively, we have to turn those field goals and punts into touchdowns. 9 punts or 9 3-and-outs like we had against Houston will not get this job done. But if the Ravens play the type of game they are capable of doing, they will absolutely dismantle this Patriot team. So if the Ravens play a much improved version compared to what they did in Houston, I see Ravens 30, Patriots 24. If we do not, I'm sorry to say, Baltimore, I see the Patriots going on to the Super Bowl, and I want Harbaugh versus Harbaugh. So this is Mr. Voiceman saying, go Ravens.